We used to think that building wealth meant that we needed more, but really we recognized that peace of mind means needing less and being content regardless whatever is in the bank. So we are unlearning hustle culture.
Right, because one thing that we recognize is that everybody leaves a legacy whether they intend to or not. It's about the actions that you've taken while you were here that people remember you for.
We had to do some digging and some realization to come to this point. And what we recognized was like at the heart of us spending was like a piece of the hustle culture, like keeping up with the Joneses, feeling that we never had enough, or always looking for the next best thing. And that gets exhausting until you realize that like the same iPhone's going to come out every September. It's always going to have the best camera. We were just car shopping the other day and looking at prices and recognizing that we were getting influenced into getting the more expensive car, and that's totally fine. But again, we had to go back to our values. What is it that we want? Do we want our money to be tied up in a car, or do we want our money to be tied up in value and things and experiences and time? And we just continue to challenge that. And I know Darius and I, we did the Minimalist Challenge. If you haven't seen the Minimalist movie, we did it many, many years ago. And that taught us a lot about the influences that we're constantly bombarded by, which is just consuming and being okay with the things that you have.
Yeah, the biggest thing with that experience is the fact that we felt a difference. We could feel the difference. We experienced the difference. And one thing that you mentioned earlier is the fact that feeling like there's not enough, where if you don't feel like you have enough, you'll never have enough, no matter how much you have. And
that's what I wanted to bring into, like, the minimalist ideology isn't necessarily about scarcity. It's about recognizing that when we're living in this world of capitalism and consuming, that we're always thinking we don't have enough. And that lack mentality is what drives us into debt and into the difficult financial spirals that we find ourselves in. But if we always believe that we always will have and a way will always be made, it's a totally different mindset shift.
Right. Now, the first point that we want to make is what we've learned, that wealth is the absence of worry, not the presence of things. Because what that forced us to do, or gave us the opportunity to do, is to live from the inside out. When we think about consumption and everything that we bring into our lives, that's living from the outside in. And that doesn't fix the root of why you feel the way that you feel in the first place. Because we can go and buy a new car and feel great for a little while, but when we get home, we're going to have that same feeling. We can buy a brand new house and have all the bells and whistles and the latest technologies, but if we don't fix what's inside of us, then we're not going to be able to appreciate the things outside of us.
Yeah, peace of mind comes from a state of peace. And you can't have peace of mind if you're not already peaceful.
Right.
So for me, just thinking about this whole journey, and especially I really say that this turn for me changed when we became parents, because for me, I was very much hustle, 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 build, 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 especially in the business. And once we had our children, it made me realize that that's not the mindset that I want. I want to be able to wake up every single day with my children and then not necessarily seeing me on my phone or taking calls and doing everything in front of them. I wanted to build a space where we're taking them to school every day, where I'm always around and she knows that they know our presence is here. Because the household that I grew up in is I always saw the hustle culture. And granted, my parents were always there for me, don't get me wrong, but I saw the stress, I saw the anxiety, and I saw like the long nights and everything that they had. And I just wanted to change the narrative. So what I recognized was I had to get content with myself and recognize that from a business standpoint, we will always be taken care of. We will always have enough. And that will allow me to scale back so that I can spend the time that I need to with my family.
Right. And that was a part of your inheritance. Because you saw that growing up, you inherited that way of thinking.
Yeah.
Just like with our daughter Gabby, she mirrors everything that we do. She acts like she's on a cell phone. Like when we go to talk to her, she say, "Hold on, wait a minute, I'm on the phone with the client." So is that something that we want her to inherit? Do we want that to be a part of our legacy? And the answer is no. The answer is absolutely not. So when we talk about the things that we've learned in our journey, because you have an opportunity to see exactly what things look like on your side of the camera or on your side of this video. Because part number 2 is the fact that simplicity isn't a step back. I think it's a step forward to peace.
And inward.
And inward, yeah.
Yeah, 1,000%. Like, how can you do more with less? And the whole thing is about clearing out the noise. Turn the TV off, get rid of the subscriptions, figure out what are the things that you like. Go back into the relationship of who are you in the first place? Because I know many people can't even exist without a TV or music or something being on, and you're just constantly being distracted and not able to have your own thoughts. So as it pertains to wealth, how can you slow down? How can you be more aware? How can you be more intent with your time and with your actions? Because at the end of the day, the most wealthy person that I know is the one who has the most time. And for me, I'm going to make sure every single day that I have the most time for the ones that I love the most.
Right. And people associate wealth with money and things.
Yes.
And money and things are a result of a mindset. They're results. So if you want better results, then you have to do different things which starts with your peace of mind, which starts with your awareness of the results that you want in the first place. Money comes to those who has a plan for it.
Yeah.
How can you think of a plan if you're saying that, oh, I'm going to wait until I have money to start living the life that I want to live? Why don't you start doing right now with what you have? Because what you will be rewarded with is a plan as to how to get more and do more and be more.
And you already alluded to this as far as like legacy. So legacy is all about how we live, right? Legacy is taught through how we live. It's not just what we leave behind. And I know that for a fact of just thinking about what my parents have left me, what your parents have left me, what my aunts and uncles have left me with, even though for if they've passed away, they didn't necessarily leave me money, but they left me memories.
And regardless of how much money that you had, you still go back to the memories that you had with the individual, the information, the anxiety that you might have around business or lack thereof. Like, it's all about the information you were left with rather than the actual funds. You didn't say anything about the money or have any feelings about the money. You don't stay up late at night talking about, oh, you was left with so much money. You were talking about the experience that you had with that individual.
Exactly. So the story that I wanted to tell was, even if I was left with money or not, the habits that were instilled is really what rings true. Because granted, if you were left millions of dollars or not, you're still going to spend your money the way that you saw it being spent, unless you decide to make a conscious decision to change that generational habit. So for me, for example, with my dad passed away when I was a teenager, and what I saw from him was he always had money. He always had cash, and he was always a cash guy. But what I always saw was he was always spending money. I didn't necessarily know where the money was coming from or how it was coming or whatever it is, and that was ingrained in me. So when he was no longer around, so although he's no longer around, I see the money being spent, right? I am the spender in the relationship. And so I recognize that I need to start looking at, why am I spending in the first place? What does this do? And when I recognize that I am the spender in the relationship, that means I have to work double hard and be more efficient with the money that comes in. Because if I'm just spending it all as it's coming in, what do I really have to show for myself? So going back to this whole thing of recognizing, being aware, why am I spending? How am I spending? What is the legacy that I want to leave? And I don't want to leave that for my daughter.
Right. And the thing I got from this information is money really can't do anything for anybody emotionally, because money itself doesn't have the emotion. Money is just a transactional tool that we use. We don't care about the hammer that built the house. We care about the house. We care about the relationships that we build with other people and what was left in us or instilled in us, or the information that was left by that individual. So when we talk about a legacy, or we talk about the trust, let's just say a trust as an example, because that's very tangible for something that we could leave behind. But that trust is filled with information. Yeah. It's filled with access to funds and how to use those funds. That's the biggest difference between a trust and a life insurance policy. A life insurance policy is just going to leave you money, where a trust leaves you information along with that money.
Very good point, and keeps you from probate.
Right, and keeps you from probate. Very important.
So peace of mind, to me, going back to the subject at hand, is about intention. So how are you being intentional today with your actions? How are you being intentional today with the love that you share? How are you being intentional with the money you spend? How are you being intentional with the people that you're speaking to? Just think about all of those micro movements that you make every single day. And how is that going to get you closer or further away to your ultimate goals and your values? Because one thing I know that we didn't necessarily address is your money being spent to fund your values? A lot of times I find as the spender in the relationship, sometimes I'm spending and it isn't aligned with the values that I have at hand. Don't say anything. So the I was waiting. I was like, what's he gonna say? What's he gonna say? So again, are you spending money that's keeping you away from the peace of mind? Going back to, what does wealth actually mean to you?
Right.
Wealth doesn't have to necessarily be a monetary thing. And for all the clients that I ask this question to, what does wealth mean to you? Very rarely does anybody ever tell me about their net worth or how much money they have in their bank account. What they tell me is me. What they tell me is my family. They tell me God. All of these things are what wealth means to them. And it's very rarely something money related. So how can you start building wealth with the things that are the number one assets to you?
Right. And another thing that I'm thinking about as we move into the next point is the fact that I think business itself is a roller coaster. And wealth is about emotional regulation and not just financial literacy.
That's a good one.
So how do you react when money's tight? Do you go in this downward spiral along with it? Because if that's the case, then you're not free. You're not free if money's tight and you lose your mind, or not lose your mind, but you have an emotional
You're not
setback.
intentional
Right.
with your emotions.
Right. So wealth is also a part of that. And we're having this conversation outwardly as we're talking about a reflection of ourselves and our family and our business and the people that we come in contact with. But we also want you to be a part of this conversation because we put way too much pressure on ourselves for no reason. And without that pressure, we're able to go further and faster than we've ever imagined. But we got to start the work inside before it can be seen on the outside.
Yeah. What just came to mind for me was surrender. That the biggest thing that I can think about was surrender. When I was able to separate the emotion from money and the money in the bank account and debt or whatever it is, when I was able to remove that separation and just exist separately as Carmen and not let the money identify who I am, I knew that I was free. From that moment of just separating the two, the money in the bank is a thing and I am a separate entity and being from that, and it has nothing to do with who I am as a person. And regardless if the money is up or if the money is down, when I can regulate my emotions and stay neutral, that's when I knew the moment that I was free.
Right. So what we're teaching our kids, what we can't teach our kids until we're right with ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
What we want to teach our children, well, our daughter and our future children, if we're blessed to have them, is the fact that wealth starts within.
When we're blessed to have
when
them,
we're
you
blessed.
gotta claim it.
Yeah. Wealth starts within rather than outside. It's not about what mom and dad can get for you or what we can leave in our wills or in our trusts. It's about starting from the inside out and adding value to the things around you. You affecting the things around you rather than the things around you affecting you.
Yeah, so as we think about like nuggets to leave you with, what would your life look like if you stopped chasing and start choosing? What would your life look like if your children were actually being able to watch you live a life of abundance as opposed to talking about it and the wish I had and maybe when we can afford? What would that look like for your family's trajectory if you were able to create an amazing foundation for your family?
Right. And I like that question because you can't chase money. You can only attract it. You can't chase it. You can only attract it. So the harder we work to try and go and get that dollar, it's just defeating the purpose. We need to have a plan that attracts it to us. So that means we need to use a lot less. We need to use less energy and start thinking rather than doing, because our actions is going to follow our thoughts.
You know what a coach actually told me once with exactly what you're saying, like money, you attract money. And so the question, which I'm going to leave you all with, is would money be attracted to you? Right? Do you act as like the hottest thing on the block that the money should come to you? Or are you repelling it subconsciously just because of your thoughts and your actions and what you think you can't have or
Right.
can't afford, right? So just think about it. If you're walking on the street and money was the most beautiful guy or gal on the street, would it come to you or would it turn the corner? Things to think about.
Right. Now, don't get me wrong. We still have our whole life insurance policies and we still have our trust and we still have real estate. But what goes along with that is information, which is the most important thing, because the legacy that we leave behind is going to be more about how you are as an individual, and that's going to reflect in how you handle the information that we've also left you as to how to maintain these assets so that you can continue the lifestyle that we think you should have. We think our children should be, do, and have a certain way, but they're individuals and they're going to interpret that information the way they do. So it's important for us to focus on the individual on the inside rather than the things that we can leave them.
So Wealth Nation, your final question, put it in the comment. If peace was your currency, how rich would you feel right now? Remember to check out our next video so that you can keep the abundance alive, keep that spirit going, and don't forget to own your own lifestyle.
Or someone else will.
We've borrowed from our whole life insurance policy to pay off credit card debt, buy a car, invest in real estate, pay for vacations, and pay for our utility bills. Sound crazy? It's not.